Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, it is Shooter. Of course, at the end of the presentation, please do review our disclosures. Okay, let's just go over a quick market recap. And okay, dollar really has done nothing. And honestly, for us to have the push that we've had here, I would consider it unusual. It's really giving me no direction. Now, I'm going to jump over to Treasuries because we got a lot of noise in the Treasuries. So the count has adjusted. So first thing, I'm going to change our vulture price down to 70 based on the count, because now we have a wave 5 back test down around 72, which we didn't have before. So whatever happened in this leg here, it's morphed into a 5 wave to the downside. So we're looking about 82. So putting a piece on here until this count changes on the long side is off the table for me. All right. Let me start with that. All right, looking at the SPY, I'm getting, now I had to go way down. I look on different time frames when I'm looking at this. This is a 90-minute scan. 90-minute scan is telling me this is an ABC ending around 453, but the weekly doesn't see it yet, nor the daily or the 4-hour as an example. So shallow time frame says we're going to flush. So that would be consistent. I would say that if we do, the odds of that being a really shallow 475, about 25%, I would say. But overall, it's the most likely outcome. And then if we find a bottom, because you realize we're still getting dip buyers. Anytime we have a dip, we get dip buyers. So me thinks it's going to roll over here again. That's just my thought. All we need is Microsoft or Google to guide lower, and I think it just brings us down. Meta's guide lower, the way we came off was pretty aggressive. I think it's overdone, which we'll go through that in a second. All right, looking at the NASDAQ, again, wave 5 down is telling me now 383, much deeper drawdown on these counts. Again, I had to go down to the 90-minute to look at this, but fundamentally, just because we couldn't push, we weren't able to hold any of our gains, and I was seeing this in the few options that we took this week. I was very conservative. I tried to stay away from the FANGs because the FANGs were sort of noisy. And that turned out to be a good call. And thank God we didn't go long Meta into earnings here because we'd have gotten clobbered. So, all right, looking at the Russells. Now, the Russells, I think we might have a little bounce here. So again, we're going to see this rotation. So we should see rotation out of the SPY and the NASDAQ, I think, into small caps. All right. But that still gives us a 5-way down. It's a leading diagonal down. So it's going to come off too. Now, the question is whether or not we end up being shallow on that. And that's something I'm seeing on both sides of the count, is that we're shallow in both directions, which makes it even more challenging. Now, I want to jump over to the Dow, because the Dow is the outlier here. It's saying we're done. I have no counts. This is a 90-minute count. It says we've got our base. Our low is in at this 376, and we should head up towards 400. Now, that would not be unusual, because realize the market is always going to seek gains. So if the SPY's not giving it to them, the Qs are not giving it to them, and the Russell's sort of mixed, they head towards the Dow, which is also sort of a flight to safety. So we want to keep that in mind. All right, then let's look at Bitcoin here. Now, Bitcoin tells me that we're going to back test this 58. And I'm sort of sticking with that, just with this look. It's an ABC look down to that 58. We came off pretty aggressively. A lot of risk with this count. I'm just telling you, very risky to the upside here, just because we're so, we've got a confirmed high, but it's still drive 1, drive 2, and XABC patterns can, come off pretty aggressively and return 100%. So, we could back test. Just realize that 58 is not a given. I'm just saying. I want to make sure everybody understands that. All right. So looking at semis, we got a little bit of a pop. I realized we were shallow on our 195. It's still not done to me to the downside. It says it's a 5 wave. That could have been an ABC. So this could have been an A, a B, and this could be C and could be done. We can build up, but not from what I'm seeing in the options picture when I'm doing my scans. All right. Now, financials are holding up. However, I don't have the conviction that that's going to stay there, because we got FOMC next week, May 1st. And I don't know that that even gives us any kind of conviction there, because I think it could come off really pretty quick. Energy is holding up. So, maybe 102, so there's some stability there. All right. So now we flushed right down to the gap. All right. We're down at 411.02 on Meta right now. That is a beautiful thing, because I think this thing is overdone. Whenever you have a technical retrace where it gave it all back right to the gap, and then we get a little bit of a bounce. So we're going to see, it could extend a little. Let me just see what the count is going to tell me. Yeah, it's going to extend a little bit. So now the count is telling me a little bit lower, 386.57. So that comes back. Let me go out to the weekly. I want to see what that is. I look at that as an opportunity because honestly, that guidance wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't. Just that's overdone to me. This is a great example. Forgive me. That changes our count way the heck up here. This is an example of how FOMO, okay, a FOMO, okay, and the fear of missing out, fear of loss work. Round trips happen. And what a round trip is, we started off with price here, we pushed, got to our peak, and then we gave it all back, right? And, I love these because you can make a lot of money on this if you're in the right place. And, what we have here is mound 1 and mound 2. So the challenging part with mounds is that we could have a shallow mound without a confirmed high, puts another top in here, which would be consistent with what I see in the count. I have to go out to the monthly to look at this, but I'm really interested in this wave 5 to 575 from where we are at 411. I mean, this is just, to me, just a huge buying opportunity down here. Common shares, cash secured puts, or even, I would go 90 days out on the calls. I mean, you can do scatter plots, stay shallow, $10 out of the money, $20 out of the money, $25 out of the money. I don't know that I would go more than that at this point until we get some divergence on our bottom, because realize we're not going to confirm here. We confirmed here. So this to me is an entire leg up. But I wanted to address META and also the way the market looks. So right now we are left with Google. Right now with META, it's come off. Remember I said if META beat, it would run. If META came off, it would come off. All right. Now Microsoft held up a little bit better. I just don't, I don't visualize Microsoft missing just because of their moat. This is mound 1 over here, mound 2. So, it's still got a ways to complete. As far as I'm concerned, this will end up being a flat. But that's sort of my thought there. Now, one that is really, really on my radar here is CAT, because I think they totally beat here. Now, that could potentially extend us up to the 178.6, 440 to 450 range, on a beat next week, with earnings. So I want to see how rough the other earnings are, but it was sort of like Visa. I'm looking at Visa, and I'm like, man, I just don't like this earnings. I don't like where we're coming into it. I don't like everything over here, and just like I wanted to put a straddle on META, and it would have worked. I mean, based on it now, if I did, we wanted to do a 550 by 400 put. But I didn't want to put the risk on with how challenging the last 60 days has been as far as premium holding, because there's no follow through. And that makes it extremely challenging to put on swing trades or position trades in this type of market, because we're extremely toppy here. And until we get back to our retrace in the SPY, until we get this 2 back in around 450 and we get this wave 2 on the NASDAQ back at 383, it is just going to be challenging here. So, there are going to be a few stocks that I really like, and I like CAT. I just don't see how their growth numbers are going to fail here, because it's building sort of. CAT takes forever for it to fall off a cliff. On top of that, on the weekly, what do we have? We have a confirmed high. So what does that always mean? It means we're looking for at least one more high. So that means to me we're going to be somewhere between this 397 and 450 on earnings with positive earnings. So that's sort of my thought. I'll end with that, folks. Great trading. Until next time.